Good morning, guys. So for today, kind of an odd day. Sorry, I'm already sweating. Gonna be cleaning up the garage. I know, one of the things that a lot of people hate doing. Unfortunately, what I like to do is pretty much try to keep stuff organized with what car belongs with what. And being that we had a busy weekend, so I'm gonna start organizing this space, so that way, you know, we can start putting the 351 block, which is down there, onto the engine stand, and then take the doors, you know, all the metal that we're not going to be using in the near future, downstairs to the basement or on the kitchen table, whichever one works. But yeah, that's what I got ahead of me for today. A lot of stuff that I got to go through, organize, and see what I can do with them. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and then I will be catching up with you guys later on today, where I look to order some more parts for the 69 fastback, and see what else we can find. So I will catch you guys in a bit. I don't want to bore you with me scratching my head and going through all this stuff and saying, oh boy. But most of this over here is 69 Mustang parts, and you could kind of remember the tail lights that we had gone through. So, alright guys, I will catch up with you guys in a bit. Alright guys, well, 30 minutes into it and I made some headway. So here's what I got. So use the 73 as a parts holder for now, and just that way I could separate all the parts. So this is all for the 69. Alright guys, so going to go not piece by piece, but pretty much section by section. So just over here we have the sun visors for the 69 fastback. This is what is the headliner trim, and then this would be what holds your sun visors. So they would clip on there, and this would bolt onto your roof or screw into the roof. This is a door panel, and they do sell these new, but I want to use and refurbish as much of the old original parts that came with the car. I don't believe in buying everything new for it. I don't know. Some people would say, hey, you know what, why go through all that hassle? But I want to reuse as much as I can, just so I can say that we're using most of the car, because I just don't like the fact of just buying stuff. Alright, so here is the speedometer. This would be your ammeter and probably your coolant, if I remember correctly. Not really sure if it's on that one. And then of course your oil pressure on that side. So that's your gauge cluster, and they do sell the instrument cluster. I forgot what the technical name of it is, but this wiring part, they do sell it. And then over here we have some of the windlace trim, your end caps for your interior pieces. These would be for your quarter panel upholstery pieces. You have your rear quarter window, and then here you have your front door window guides. So this is where your door glass would sit on, in this channel right here. And these were a glue-in type. A lot of people don't really favor the glue-in type. They like the 1970 guide better than the 69 because of the fact of the glue. Here we have our buckets for our headlights and your high beams and low beams, and then the gas cap. This one looks pretty cool. This is kind of like the original style that my 73 had, and that's where this little wire would bolt on, or not bolt on, but would dangle onto your taillight panel. Let's see if we can see it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it. That wire is where the cap was. And over here we have some of the ducting for the AC stuff. And then this is some chrome trim. This goes around your grill, your high beams. Yeah, your high beams. And then this is for your window. Yeah, your side window. And then this is going to be, the chrome is dented up, so you know, we're going to try to straighten it as much as we can. This goes on the bottom of your windshield. And then this is one of the uprights for the windshield. So it is kind of twisted, but you know, like I said, I want to try to reuse as much as possible. Over here, we have the seat belts, and these got to get cleaned up. Obviously, remove the rest of the metal, right? Gonna throw a lot of WD-40 or whatever out to see if we can free them up. Over here, we have our tail lamps, and then our harness. This one goes from your tail lights all the way along your quarter panel, and we'll use the 73 as a reference. So your tail lights that begin on your passenger side come all the way towards the driver's side, and then right all the way up. And then your courtesy lights would be around here, and then the wires continue down your rocker panel, and they would meet another harness that would be considered your underdash harness, and that's where you would connect them. So yeah, a lot of wiring to go through. Not a big deal. I mean, they do have schematics to go through that you can use, and you know, if you're not familiar with these, I've taken apart a lot of harnesses and they're not that complicated. Some of them are color coded and makes it a lot easier, guys. So again, you know, maybe 20 years ago we did not have that knowledge in our fingertips, and you know, with the internet today we have so much available to us. These are the spindles for the 69 Mustang, and these are disc spindles. So again, what I'm going to do, and it's going to be fun, but gonna clean up these spindles. So get rid of the ball joints. Let me lay it down. Get rid of these ball joints. So by that, you just get rid of this cotter pin that's right here, and then get rid of this bolt, and then bang it a couple of times, and that should slide out. And then same thing on this side. Get rid of, this is the tie rod. So again, get rid of the cotter pin, and then get rid of that castle nut. At that point, then we'll just take apart all the hub assembly stuff, which you'll get rid of this cotter pin again, spindle nut and retainer, and then your bearings will be in there. So you'll have your inner wheel bearings, and then your race, and then you can start getting rid of your spindle from it. The other steps to it is you have to remove your caliper, which is going to be by these bolts over here. So once you free those out, you'll be able to sight out your caliper, and then your rotor should be able to fall free, even though this one will most likely take some beating, but then you'll pretty much get your spindle naked at that point. But we'll go through that when I redo it. And this one's a little bit easier because it already has the rotor and caliper off. So this is pretty much what it would look like. Just get rid of this shield. Yeah, for the most part, that's what it's going to end up looking like. And these three, we'll get rid of this dustpan right here, and then we'll redo that. And over here, all right, so we have the rocker pan, as you guys have seen, and then the rear section that I got to finish welding, hopefully put some time in it today. And then the taillight panel, which I have to drill the holes on. And then these are the torque box covers. Something like that. Obviously those have to have holes punched in there, and then spot welded, and then probably throw some beads on there just to add some durability to it. And then back here we have the 351 Cleveland head, and then there's the other one right there, the crank and the block. So that is a 72 yeah, I believe it's 72 351 Cleveland Cobra Jet motor. This is the original block for the 73 right over here. So we're going to rebuild that one, then take the one that is in the 73, which is the same block. The 73 has a hotter cam in it, but that one will go in the 69 fastback, and then this one will return to its original owner and go back in the 73 Mustang. And there is one of the AC units for the 69. So that's what we got lined up as far as parts, guys. I'm going to finish organizing over here, and then once I finish that, I'll go inside and spend some time on the computer and see what we can order. Alright guys, catch you in a bit. So pretty much got most of the parts off of the 73, which is kind of good for the 73. But now I'm just going to put some degreaser on these parts and see how they clean up. I did find a lens, so put some degreaser on it, and then we'll hose them down and see what it looks like. I love the way the speedometer looks. You know, it definitely shows its age, but it looks pretty cool in my book. So this is the grill opening molding, and that I am going to save. I don't, like I said, I want to keep as many original pieces. And then over here, here are some of the parts off of the 59, Impala. So these are going to go back on the other side of the garage, and probably put on the 63 just to teach my brother a lesson. Alright guys, so that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. Did get most of the garage somewhat organized, and now I'm going to put the taillight panel, this guy right here, and put it on top of the workbench, and that way I'll be able to drill the holes on it and then do the same thing with the brakes. So that's the plan for today, and obviously finishing up some welding. Yeah, so pretty much a slow day, but making the best of it as it is currently raining out. So there you go, 69 fastback. We'll see what we get as far as parts later on today. So rinsed off the lens, guys, and also wiped it down, or dried it off I should say, and it still had some grime on it, but look at that, pretty nice. So I'm gonna throw a little bit of rubbing compound, rub it a little bit, and then some wax on it and see what it does. Probably put Windex on it first, but yeah, we just had like this small little piece that I don't know what it is, but it definitely was etched in there, so not too bad. Alright guys, I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing. Alright guys, so put some cleaner wax on the lens. I'm gonna let it dry up a little bit, then buff it out, and started cleaning up the grill molding, the lower grill molding. So it's not looking too bad. I mean, if it's you know, took most of the main dent away, or the fold that it had, you know, it was kind of twisted from the middle. So now it's a little bit smoother, but now I gotta, you know, work this side, and let's see if we could have it a little bit even. Yeah, see, so I gotta pull this down and then fold this down and then tighten up this lip. So that's what I got ahead of me. Just little stuff today, and then once I get bored, I'll go into the house and start ordering some parts. Alright guys, so just about finishing up removing this cleaner wax off of this lens, and I gotta tell you, I am a little bit surprised at how good it came out. So not really sure if you guys could see it through the camera, but there's only this small little smidget, but other than that, I mean, the lens looks pretty good. So no real deep scratches on it, but just this imperfection right there. So yep, that's what a little work did. Alright guys, so pretty much what I'm preparing to do is to take off the lower ball joint and upper ball joint and the tie rod from this spindle. I'm also going to see if I can free up this caliper bracket, and that is by 2 bolts of 3/8. I was trying to get this one out, but it's rounding out, so I'm going to see if I could try another method on it. So pretty much what I'm going to do is put these cotter pins up a little bit, and, you know, grab a flathead, or yeah, pretty much anything that you can stick in there, some pliers, just to straighten it out. And then at that point, what you'll do is you want to make them straight, and that way, you know, you can try to, hopefully it'll work, but you can try to hammer it out a little bit, so that way the beginning or the head of the cotter pin will be able to come out. Sometimes it's a little bit of a tricky thing, because they do break. If they do break, no need to panic, obviously, but you know, you will need to figure out a way to pry off the head and then continue to loosen up the bolt. So that's the plan for today. I am going to continue with this guy, and this one's going to be a little bit easier. So I'm going to start off with these 3, loosen them up, and these are, this is the right size. These are a 1/2 inch. So I'll go ahead and take this off, and then this shield will come out. So I'm going to turn you guys off for a little bit, and I'm going to start loosening these guys off, and then I'm going to put some lubricant on that, so that way, or penetrant I should say, and that way we will be able to get those cotter pins out. So I'll continue with the video once I'm done spraying the penetrant, sorry, and then we'll get these guys out. So that's the plan, guys. And I mean, with parts that have been sitting around for a while, I mean, you're gonna run into the issue of maybe the head bolt will break off, and obviously do not get discouraged, guys. I mean, it is part of the struggle, but just stay positive and know that you're gonna beat that. So it's always good to continue and keep moving forward. So I'm gonna let that settle for a little bit, and I'm going to start taking these guys out. All right, so half inch on it, and let's see if it'll budge. Alright, so it's freed up. So that's one. I'm going to the next one. Same thing, I have my foot on the tip of the spindle. Then I'm going to the last one. Alright, so not that bad. So they came out pretty easily. I'm just going to keep on going with it. Number 2. And number 3. And here's that retainer. And here is the shield. Yeah, the shield is a little bit bent out of shape, but nothing that we can't straighten out, guys. So that's the name of the game on that. You know, it's pretty much, you know, either grabbing a piece of wood and putting pressure on it from the top, or we could put it on the vise and tighten it up and straighten it out. So I'll show you the process that I use on it, just to show you guys what it's like, or what steps I would take to straighten it out. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the bolts back and placing them with the retainer. That way I know what belongs where and what bolts go with what. So that way when I am detailing the part, I will be able to assemble it in the correct spot and with the correct bolts. Alright, so let's see if this one works. I was having some trouble with it earlier, or a couple of minutes ago. So it's a 3/8, and this bolt is already rounded out a little bit. So I'm gonna try to just put my foot on the spindle threads on the beginning, and let's see if I can get it to come out. So yeah, if you notice, it's just rounding itself out. Based on the age of it, the exposure, you know, the walls of the actual bolts are given out. So what I'm gonna do is I will heat it up. And then tap the socket onto it, and then try to ratchet it out again. So you know, stuff like this is what we experience when we're dealing with parts of this age. Which again, you know, stay positive, because it will come out one way or another. All right, just for those people that are wondering what steps I'm taking to remove this bolt. So the 3/8 is just breaking the wall of the bolt, and what I did was I hammered a 9mm onto it, and obviously you don't want to put your fingers in harm's way, but you got to be careful. And that was able to bite onto the sidewall a little bit tighter, and I was able to free it up. So that's the step that I took on it. What I'm going to do now is put this on the vise and get rid of these bolts to release the bracket for the caliper. So it's going to go on here. Pretty much was, whoops. So obviously we're not going to clamp it by the threaded part, right? Which wouldn't make any sense. So we're going to want something that we can hold it tight and secure. So I'm going to go by the part where the tie rod goes. I mean, ball joint goes. So that guy right there. And I'm going to tighten this up a little bit more, so that way it doesn't move when we are putting, you know, the ratchet to this bolt right here. So I'm going to, all right, get some penetrating spray and spray it first, and then we will go from there. So we're going to let it sit for a while, and then we'll go from there, guys. Alright guys, so in order to remove this spindle nut, what we have to do is straighten out this cotter pin. and this holds your spindle nut from just backing out. And what I'm going to do is get a flat head and then push the cotter pin out. So pretty much going like this technique, or like this, and then hammering it out, and that way it'll drive this out. And once I do that, I will show you guys what the cap, this is the cap right here, or the retaining cover, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much it just goes over your spindle nut, that way it doesn't back up. And then this is your last safety if anything goes wrong. So I'm gonna remove that cotter pin and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright guys, so after a couple of minutes of searching for the right tool or the right socket, it was a 1 1/8, so that just goes over there. And again, you're just gonna unloosen it. So you want to put your foot on it, that way it doesn't go anywhere, and just back it out as normal. Alright, so then we're gonna just hit the socket, and this is your spindle nut. Okay, so the spindle nut goes right through there, like that, and your cotter pin, which would go through that. So in here, like we were saying earlier, it does have your wheel bearings on here, and these are very important that you keep them greased up correctly. So ultimately, you know, grease is the element to keeping the bearings in good shape. So this one would theoretically just slide right out, but you can see it's got a little groove right here, and this washer has a little groove on it. So there you go. So that's how it goes. And then this is going to be your inner bearings, your wheel bearings. Alright, so we're not able to take out the rotor yet. We do have to free up the caliper, and that's what I'm going to start working on. Alright guys, so we're going to leave this one as it is, and we're going to go to the one on the vise, because that one I am ready to remove the caliper bracket bolts, and that is what we would need to remove in order to get the caliper off of this one. So I'm going to hop onto that one and remove these bolts. That way we can free up the caliper. So I'm going to start recording on that other one. Alright, let's see how smooth this goes. Usually they can be a little bit of a pain, but let's see what happens. So 13/16 is going to be for the size for this bolt. I'm going to use this guy, and I'm going to put the cheater pipe on it. I'm going to position it where I have a little bit more leverage on it. Alright, so not too bad. So now I don't need that guy anymore, and I'm just going to continue loosening it up. Alright, so that's what it looks like. So that's one side. So it has two bolts. So I'm gonna reposition the spindle and then turn it around and get that one out. So this one is right here. I'm gonna grab it by the knuckle. And this one, because I wasn't able to knock out this nut yet. Alright. So obviously you don't want to damage the threads on your spindle. But we are going to go for this guy right here. Okay. So again, same thing, cheater pipe. And you could probably see that the bracket's already moving. Alright, so this is the caliper bracket. And these are the bolts. Alright, So I'm just going to thread this one back into here and this one back into there so I know the placement of them. Alright, so that's the bracket. Again, you know, we'll detail this guy. And now this spindle is pretty much free. So this is what the spindle by itself looks like. Alright. So that's a bare spindle. So obviously when we get it all ready for its remaking, we'll have to degrease it first. That way all this comes off, and then do some sanding and prep it up for paint. So that's where we're at. I'm going to do the same thing to that side, and then that way we'll get that caliper off and make that spindle bare. So just the steps that we took on this one are going to be applied to that one. The only difference is that this one has the ball joints on it, which, if you guys remember how we are going to remove the cotter pins, or we did on that spindle, pretty much the same process. The only thing is that we're going to have to get the hammer and hammer the ends of the spindle. That way the ball joint or tie rod falls out, which this one still has the tie rod on, and this one has the ball joint. So if I can, I will remember and shoot the video of that, guys, where I am beating out the tie rod. Okay, so going after the last caliper bolt, I already got one out, and this is the way I'm going to prop it, since it's kind of too bulky for the vise. So again, I have that cheater pipe in there. And thankfully, it came free, which is always a big plus, right? So I'm going to continue on it, just to back it out. And remember, I'm not really sure if you guys saw it, but this rotor was broken. So ideally, you would just have to compress the caliper piston in a little bit to free it from the rotor. And let's see if we're able to, because this is the rotor vanes, which should have a contacting surface on both sides where your caliper piston pushes your pads. And yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I could hammer it up and free it out. So I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about, but you're not going to be able to see me actually take the full wax that I should be. Alright, so that's what I will be doing to get this caliper off. So I will show you guys and resume shooting once I get it off of there. Alright guys, so kind of going back to what I was talking about, half of the rotor being missed. So if you could see right in here, I'm going to get a screwdriver. So right here is your piston for your caliper. So this piston would have a pad attached to it, and that would push the pad onto the outer friction side of it. Kind of like this one, where it has the pad and then it causes friction on this side and slows down the vehicle once they are applied. So because this one does not, and it looks like this piston is almost extended all the way, ideally what you would do is just pry it back like so and cause the piston to retract. But because there is no other side to kind of push against, I'm going to see what I could do to get it out. So it might be a longer process than 10 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resume shooting once I get it out, because I don't want to bore you guys with experimenting with let's call it a jack handle or a longer flat screwdriver, because I'm not really sure if this piston is rusted and we're not going to be able to get it out. So that's where I'm at. If all else fails, I will just keep on whacking it from here, because the rotor, regardless, is no good anyway, and I really don't need it. I just got to make sure that I don't mess up the caliper, which, I mean, at this point, if we got to buy a new one, that's fine, but I would like to keep the original one and rebuild it and go from there. So I'm going to get a bigger hammer and instead of this little guy, and see what we could do. Alright, so got the bigger hammer, and all I'm doing is pretty much hitting the the edge of the caliper. It is extremely rusted on, guys, but I did see some movement, so I decided to show you guys what I was doing. So here we go. Obviously, you want to be careful that you don't whack your knee, because trust me, that is not a fun experience, because that hurts. All right, so we're almost there. Whew. Yeah, don't take a whiff of that stuff, guys. So you pretty much have it out. That was either somebody really running the brakes until the wheel falls off, or man. All right. So got it for you guys. So this is the caliper, and yeah. So that is the piston. You see how it's fully extended. And that's not good. So this is the brake pad that was on there. Usually we remove these clips. These are your retainers, and then you would set in your shoes. And in this case, we're probably gonna have to hammer the shoes off, or brake pads off. I'm sorry, but yeah, these are the retainers. You just push down, use a flathead, lift this groove up, and then you'll be able to remove the pad. But this one looks rusted on pretty well, so you may have to hammer it down. So yeah, that's where we're at. Now we'll be able to lift up the actual brake rotor, which while the hammering, the wheel bearing fell off, which is okay because we're not going to use it. We are going to need to buy new ones though. And so here you go, that's what happens. Yeah, so here is your inner wheel bearing here, and that has a raise. And now we're down to the shield, where we will take care of the 3 bolts like we did on the previous one. But that's pretty much how you disassemble a spindle. And if you know, if you run into any difficulty, guys, the bigger the hammer, the better. The bigger the cheater pipe, the better. But overall, you know, just keep patient and keep on trying, because it does take some work, especially with these rusted parts. And you know, in cars, hopefully, if they've been maintained well, pretty easy. But this one obviously has not been. So, all right, guys, see you in a bit. All right, guys, so got the 3 bolts removed from the splash shield or dust shield, whichever one you want to call it. Upon doing the last bolt, though, the retainer, right, broke. So, you know, add something else to the parts list. But now we're able to free it up. And like I told you guys before, this one's a little bit dented, folded, or whatever you want to call it. But we will definitely have to straighten that piece out. There was an area where it was starting to have a hole in it. I mean, these you can, you know, fix pretty easily. Not a big deal. That's the rotor. That's the spindle. Still have the tie rods and ball joints. There's your upper ball joint, lower ball joint, tie rod. Still attached. But it should be a little bit easier now, because I can throw it on the vise and don't have such a bulky item, which it wouldn't clamp down on, to remove these bolts, or nuts, I should say. So that's where we're at. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for the day. I'm going to go up after I remove those nuts and start ordering some parts. So pretty interesting, I think, you know, from a standpoint of the amount of effort that it takes to remove some of these pieces. But it's always awesome when you come out the victor and you know, get something done. So I'm kind of pleased that we were able to knock that out today. And tomorrow, hopefully, get off of well, no, I don't work tomorrow. Tomorrow I do want to finish up the tail panel. That is my goal for tomorrow, and hopefully we do get the other rocker in, and then we can start making the shapes for the lower wheel housing. And I will show you guys that tomorrow, obviously. But that's the goal for today. I'm gonna finish taking that apart. And yeah, pretty much it, guys. Slow day because of the parts and the rain in the morning, but overall did get the garage a little bit cleaner, and did finish cleaning up the 73. So all the parts are downstairs in their own little category, interior with the interior, you know, trim pieces with trim pieces. And I'm gonna try to see if I can finish folding this guy down. Yeah, that's it. Oh, also, thanks to Orlando for dropping this off. Been a while since I've seen him, but it was awesome catching up on times, and you know, he definitely gives me some inspiration, seeing the project cars that he's gone through and worked through. So yeah, all right guys, I'm gonna get back to it. All right guys, so just to show you guys what I was talking about as far as removing the tie rod and so on. So I removed the castle nut, and I had to, pardon me, the cotter pin. And the bad thing is it didn't want to go through the hole that is there for it. So what I did was, and this kind of one of those last last methods you should try if you can't really get it out. So I kept on bending the flaps so that way it broke in pretty close to where the hole was. And then on the other side, I was able to pry out the head of the cotter pin a little bit, and then broke it. And at that point, I thought it was going to come out, but it did not come out. So what I'm doing now is I'm just turning the bolt, the nut, pardon me, and freeing it up. So I got it to spin out pretty much. Usually, if you have an issue with the tie rod, the threaded piece will spin in the actual tapered end, which becomes a bigger headache because we got to find a way to stop that from happening, or from stopping it from spinning. But the good thing about it is that this has been on the car for a while, so it's probably caked on there, and I'm just going to keep on backing it out, and hopefully all goes well, and this doesn't fall on me. But yeah, so just keep on going. Alright, so you can see it's almost there. Alright, so it's out. Again, just hammer this guy, right? And it'll fall, or just tap it against something sturdy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this again, and then hammer the sides. You can see how it's kind of moving. Okay. So we got to be careful where we're striking it. Obviously, this tie rod that we're not going to use, because sometimes when you're throwing the blow on it, it'll hit the threaded part, and you don't want that to happen. If you're not using it, you want to make sure that your blows are being on the spindle, because that will cause a vibration and cause that tapered contact between both of the surfaces to free up, and this will fall out. So I'm going to take a couple of whacks and kind of show you guys what you would do. And if I can't get it out in 2 or 3 strikes, I'm going to grab a bigger hammer. Alright, so it's still on there. I'm going to grab a bigger hammer. Alright, so I repositioned the spindle so that way I can throw some better blows on here. I also made sure that it was tighter. And I'm going to continue to keep on hitting the spindle on this side right here. And of course, you don't have that tight, it's going to move on you. But keep on going, and it'll eventually pop up. Alright guys, so after another whack or two, it finally fell off. So there's the tapered end that goes in here, and that's what it looks like. So yep, so that's what I gotta do to these guys, and beat them up for a little bit, and hopefully that they fall with a couple of strikes. So that's the next game of the next plan of attack, and that way it'll be a bare spindle like the other one that is right there. So, all right, guys, talk to you in a bit. Alright guys, so that's number 2. One more to go. Alright guys, so this one was a little bit more aggressive, but I was able to get it to start spinning. So I'm going to finish unloosening this one, and then pretty much give it the strikes on this side, and hopefully it'll drop out pretty easily. So I will get the nut out, and then I'll take the video of when I start striking it. Alright guys, so got that nut off. It fell and went somewhere over here. Not really sure where it went. Oh, there it goes. But now I'm going to start throwing some hands on this spindle. So I'm going to tighten it again, or see if it became loose while we were undoing it. And it did. Okay. So I'm going to start striking it. I will throw a couple of blows on it while I have you guys on record, and then I will take you guys off a record and throw some more, and hopefully it'll fall out. Wow, look at that. It literally fell. So there goes my idea of stopping the filming. So there you go. So it's all bare now, guys. And I'm going to undo the clamp here, or the vise, and this is what we got. So this spindle is bare, and the other spindle is bare. And the good thing about the spindles is, if you don't know what you have, guys, easiest way, if you're buying bare spindles, they have a part number in the back, and the part number is right over here, right on this neck. So this would be located between your upper ball joint and lower ball joint, and the numbers are right here. So this one we can barely make out, but if you guys have any questions around it, you know, just sand it down a little bit, and or if the part is already bare and stripped and all that stuff, you can easily type in these numbers into Google, and they will give you a rundown of what the spindle is. And also, if you don't feel confident with those answers on on Google, you can also go to eBay and also type in that number. And I've done that numerous times, because you never know. Like I said, you know, the resources that we have nowadays, we got to use them. So here we go. So this one, we flip it around, is DOZA. D is for the decade, which Ford was A, B, C. C was 60s. D was 70s, and this is a part for a 70. And Z is a Mustang line. Other models had different suffixes. So you had, like, whether it be B, or I believe it was Falcon, there was a D, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure. I haven't kept up on that. But then this is the rest of the part number right here. And then you would just type that in and see what you got. So those are 70 spindles, which 70 and 69 work hand in hand. 68 spindles, obviously a 1 year type of thing, because then they reconfigured the geometry on the spindle. And I don't know if I could show it to you guys, but the spindles in there, that's the lower control arm, and you'll see where the brake line or brake hose is coming out of. But yeah, and then 71 through 73 are completely different. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's right there. You see the tie rod, lower ball joint. There's the lower ball joint control arm, right? So that's the control arm, the lower ball joint right there. And then your spindles right there was the dust shield. And then you see the disc. All right, so I feel pretty accomplished for today. Did what I wanted to do. which was clean up the garage. I don't really like doing that, but you know, sometimes you gotta get organized, because it really sucks wasting time looking for parts, or whether it be tools. So always better to work smarter, not harder, and sometimes it's hard to work smart when you're working harder. So now I'm gonna go inside, get some water, and pretty much call it a day for the garage. Next time I will see you, I will be inside and looking for parts. Alright guys, so until the next one. Alright guys, so just came in, got myself a nice glass of milk, and I'm going to start getting on the net and looking for some parts.